Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the end of the road here for the NJCAA. It's the grand finals of the spring semester. WSU Tech are here today to meet Barton Community College. My name is Sikula. I'm joined here by Chief as we're looking at a best of three with UCC points on the line.
You know, Reese, we came into the series and the season a couple months ago, and you know what I was told? I was told this grand final would be taking place. Barton Community College, the two-time champion, a fall semester champion, going against the new kids on the block, WSU Tech. That was predicted through presciences earlier this semester, and it seems to be accurate, because here it is in the best of three.
Yeah, and you do have this great storyline, as you mentioned there, Barton being a two-times NJCAA winner, having also secured just inside of this competition for R6 alone the previous semester's victory. They're looking to go back-to-back here tonight, and on the other side of the field, we've got WSU Tech, a roster which has only been together for 5 months, already has completed a flawless season and has trampled every opponent in their way, and they're looking to add another name to their hit list tonight with the Barton Cougars on the other side of the playing field.
Two flawless rosters meeting together in this best of three race. Let's find out where we're going to be going today in the best of three. It's going to be Oregon, Coastline, and Villa. Both rosters said that their best map pool is Coastline. That's going to be map number 2. I'm eager to see what that delivers us, but again, we have to go to Oregon first, and that can be quite a different map, Reese. It requires a lot of communication, synergization, and utility usage.
Right, and Coastline also embodies that aggressive element that you do sometimes get in intramural Siege. And both of these rosters, they themselves embody that very high-paced, quick, get-up-and-go style of Siege. And they're going to show it to you tonight, never more so than when we get on to Coastline, a map that is littered with bloody battlefields through the regular season that these two teams have played. And ultimately, we saw this map played in the semifinals for each of these rosters. And Barton was the team to come out with the even more dominant victory, a 7-0 that they notched against the University of South Carolina Sumter. On the other side of the round of 4, we saw WSU Tech deliver a 7-3 against St. Clair. Both victories strong in their own right, but you have to think, Barton, what are they doing that gets them that 7-0?
It comes down to gunplay and gun skill. I think that's going to be the primary motif going across both Barton as well as WSU Tech. I mean, both teams, again, flawless in this semester. And really, why are they flawless? They prioritize objective play by forcing the diffuser down whenever the drones say, hey, nobody's occupying site, let's just go for the execute. They immediately go for the plan, and the gun skill is there to back it up. So that's something that you have to be very mindful if you're an on-site anchor. I don't want to call it a rush, but you have to be prepared for a very fast style execute.
Well, one point I did want to mention as preparing to get into the game is those UCC points. For those of you who don't know what a UCC is, never heard of a UCC, it's the Unified Collegiate Championship, which is the biggest tournament College Siege in this entire history of the game has ever seen. $20,000, 16 teams single elimination, and 4 JUCO representatives. The top 4 placing rosters from this competition already are locked in and are headed to the UCC coming at the end of this month. You will want to see that competition. Going to be the biggest thing we've ever had.
As 350 points on the line for the team that finishes in first place, crowned today, Reese. But enough of that. Let's dive into map number 1. Let's dive into Oregon and see who gets crowned the champion. It's going to be a long road ahead. Again, it's taking place across 3 maps, and Oregon is going to be, I think, the litmus test today. It's going to be the map that really establishes the stage of what's going to be taking place on Coastline and eventually Villa if we do end up seeing that map. Because again, it's going to be all coming down to who can play together as a cohesive fighting unit the best.
In Oregon, one conversation that I did have on the WSU Tech broadcast yesterday when they played against St. Clair was the fact that on Oregon, sometimes you do kind of fall into the rut where the game is defined by momentum. And both of these rosters being, as quick as they are and how swiftly they like to get to the punch, sometimes momentum can shift the entire way the map is played, right? You're trying to get in early. Sometimes you're not droning. Sometimes you're not really, playing with as much hazard or caution. You get in, the defense shuts you down. down, or the other way around, the attackers are just able to kind of fly in and get that entry game rolling early, Oregon can start to kind of repeat itself over and over again. And these two teams, I think, will rely on defensive strategy, try to keep that complex nature, very layered style of defense. You keep that up, Oregon should be in your hands.
Well, it's already being demonstrated in the bans right now, Reese. During the regular season play for NJCAA, WSU Tech has been banning Jackal and Kapkan consistently. Yesterday against St. Clair was the first time that WSU Tech deviated away from their defending ban of Kapkan. They went in favor of that Cade, and I think a couple of times Valkyrie as well. And now they're once again trying to remove the utility element of the Barton defense, because Barton's starting on defense first. So that means when we see a downstairs bomb site in the basement, we're no longer going to be able to defend the hatches with the Cades, and same thing can be said for the upstairs walls of the bomb site that we're currently going to, dorms.
Well, a big part of Barton CC's performance so far through the semester here, spring, as well as back during the fall in their championship there, had come out of Joe Burrow. I have seen so many moments from this player. The things that he does in the server are just absolutely heroic, and Barton CC will look to him to kind of decide where is their early game going to go. I would suspect the Malusi probably going to play down inside a meeting. We'll see that hatch likely to be popped open, and the Mel will play down there to watch any kind of push through attic. Another point that we didn't really touch on too much during the pregame there, Chief, WSU Tech planting is the main thing on their mind. They will try to get that bomb down at any cost. Doesn't matter the map, site, scenario, nothing will stop them if they see an opportunity.
Well, this is the hardest bomb site to plant, so an opportunity most likely won't present itself until the attacking team does a few things to open up site. It's going to be removing the wall using an exothermic charge, not currently available to WSU Tech. It's going to be a smaller charge. It's going to be the X-Cairo pellets of Habana, so Big Guy's going to have to kind of careful negotiating their way through not only the hard breach, but a potential spawn peak from Joe Burrow. And we've been talking about how WSU Tech has been a team setting the precedent for early aggression, but I think Barton Community College trying to come out swinging while they sure aren't able to find the spawn peak, and it's already slowed down WSU Tech, and you can see that Shadows identified it, and now they're calling in for extra reinforcements.
Now, the Cougars just sort of looking to see if they might be able to get the early jump here and involve themselves in a conflict with WSU. The attacking lineup, fairly well spread. You've got a couple different components to come at this. The one thing I think is most important to talk about is no presence of an ace or a thermite. You just got the Hibana. You might not really open things up in the way that you would ideally want. Joe Burrow steps up, he gets that entry, and he falls back without being traded. It's your Nomad to suffer the early death.
And that was a play right out of the WSU Tech playbook. The early aggression. There's a trade, though. Joe Burrow exists a little bit too long on the white stairs, and now Chosen's able to kind of feel the shoes of the player of Barton that they were able to fell, and now they're all the way up the top of the white. They're in a crossfire, though. That's something to be mindful of, and it seems like WSU Tech, they have no care in the world. Chosen has no care in the world. They just want to be hyper-aggressive. Don't look now, though. There it is. Big Guy going for the plant, and Toaster 5000 has absolutely no idea. Salty Archer against 4. They fell Big Guy, but they're out of ammo, and then SMG 11. They're going to have to use a Mossberg shotgun close quarters in the window. Good for an additional 1. Now it's time to go for the reload, but where did WSU Tech go, Reese? They're outside playing very long angles, and why the smoke toxic gas grenades actually might be good enough. Salty's going for the defuse. Only a few seconds left. Chosen gonna have to push, and the headshot is found. Chosen finds a final kill, and oh boy, Reese, it was looking tight there, and WSU Tech, the ninja plant, ends up working out for them.
A hearty clutch attempt there by Archer, and already an emotional first round. WSU Tech proving that point. They see the opportunity. The coverage was there, and a plant is in motion from the roster in Wichita. Barton CC try as they might ultimately fail to stop the pressure, and WSU Tech, important to note, their ability to negate that early casualty dealt out by Joe Burrow. They took back one, they took back another, and the 4 versus 3 was ultimately that one man up enough for WSU Tech to say, let's get it over with, let's get into the bomb site.
And I have to admire WSU Tech for identifying, hey, we can just go for the plant right now. A lot of teams in collegiate would be almost petrified. I think that's a good way of putting it. to go for kind of that risky plant, because a lot of times teams are going to dispatch nitrocells, impact grenades, smoke toxic gas canisters, and you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt losing the diffuser. And I guess that's just the hallmark of the confidence of WSU Tech to not only defend the planter, but establish crossfires and cutoffs to make sure that nobody can really gain access to that diffuser in the post plant.
And it's another really strong element of WSU Tech, their ability to hold the crosses, to understand, okay, this is how a couple different angles are going to work, and they set it up in such a fluid way. It's not like this very janky process where you've got one crossfire here, another player is like caught in a rotate or something like that. It looks so natural with the way that they're able to begin the round. And Barton CC, ultimately, their inability to use any kind of, denial utility, I think is important to talk about it as well, right? When you've got that planter, he's in a rough spot, but you still, as a defender, you have some cover. Get a C4 over there, get some toxic babes. It was far too late. Barton could not deny that, and ultimately they fell by the wayside, but they're going to reattempt it. They're going to try to prove that it was only a fluke on the first round.
And here's another theme of being fluid on the attacking side. Look at WSU Tech, Reese. They've currently changed up their attacking lineup. Or not lineup, but their direction in which they're pushing. It was a big window take in round number 1, and now it's a more traditional take from Big Tower as well as from games. So it's going to be a pinch 180 degrees from 2 different portions of the map. They do have to be very mindful of lurking nitro cells from below. And once again, Barton Community College finds the opening kill, and probably on an even more important player this time. That's your primary hard breacher. Habana lost early.
So there is a little bit less kind of value given over to that idea of WSU Tech swapping the area they were pushing from. Next, Kairos not able to really give you enough of an opening now that Habana's dead. Grenade comes in, but it's captured by the ADS. Salty Archer realizes this is only the first of the explosives. And look at Chosen! He just starts to peek around the corner. Wow. Somehow, Salty Archer misses the shotgun. Buckshot does not connect, and it gives over control of Attic to WSU Tech. Barton CC need to respond quickly.
I think WSU Tech might respond a little bit faster. There's somebody in big window. That's Trevor ready to spring in using the lifeline, and Shadow's kill as well. That might be kind of the crumbling of the bomb site. Jester is in an awkward position as well, Reese. They're stuck over by one of the primary plant spots, and sure, they're in an elevated position that a lot of teams aren't going to check at head level, but it's definitely not a comfortable spot to be in. I'm a Toaster, and Arfie is not in a good position either. There's Jester falling. That's an avenue to potentially go for a plant, and again, the kings and queens of going for plants, WSU Tech, they're doing that exactly now. And once again, another 1v4 converted relatively quickly to 1v2. Shadow completes the plant, the pre-fire from Trevmac though, and it's good for an additional kill. Barton Community College has done a wonderful job of bringing an impossible scenario almost to a winnable one, Reese, but they've been unable to find victory as of yet.
The issue is the heroics, they just don't erupt until Barton only have a single member left. Something about the way that WSU Tech are playing right now, it's just kind of, I don't know, it spreads Barton a little too thin until they've got that final player left. That's when the guns really come alive, and usually it's just the gun that steps up there for Barton CC. They need to trade better. The thing is going well in the early game, right? The entry pick has been there. Joe Burrow, I'm really expecting to be writing his name down in the entry kill category a lot tonight. But the issue is the follow-up is not there. It's not strong enough from Barton CC. WSU Tech are always able to get that trade back. They're usually stacking an additional body as well, like we've seen in these first 2 rounds.
And Barton Community College has showed a lot of confidence to find those 2 opening kills. So, you know what? Why not have Barton continue that early aggression? Because I think WSU Tech is very used to teams playing passive around them, taking a kill, falling back to the bomb site, and then just waiting for the execute to happen. I think if Barton Community College takes aggression almost perpetually throughout the round, where they're always fighting WSU Tech for map control, I think WSU Tech is going to find themselves an opponent that is willing to fight tooth and nail, and something that WSU Tech has not really faced yet.
And I suppose you could take another perspective of this. Barton CC might be prepared for an opponent that kind of mimics the way that these other JUCO teams play, but what's going on with the Flores drone? Skunky having some difficulty there. Archer, get off your cam! No! He dies to the Rotero! Archer, do you have your headset on, man? He doesn't even hear it exploding or even see the indicator.
Wow! That That is a rarity, ladies and gentlemen. Simply put, you're just never going to see R60 or Terror drone kills like that ever. So remember that, clip it on Twitch, and save it in your wallet, because that is a true treat right there. And at least WSU Tech is able to change up the faults that they've had in the previous 2 round race. They're no longer the opening death, and WSU Tech has so much flexibility, not only the time department, but the ability to push from multiple angles, especially after Joe Burrow falls in the roam.
Yeah, he just sort of raced up into the top of the tower and didn't have an escape route, could not get out and under a massive amount of pressure. It means WSU Tech now 5 versus 3. A player in pillar down as well. Jester too far extended, and it's been such a familiar refrain so far this game. Members of Barton, one by one, getting isolated, getting pressured, and getting pinched. A C4 comes to Big Guy. He's down, but in the meanwhile, a grenade, more explosives trade back and forth. Finally, Barton are able to kind of pick up the slack in this 2 versus X scenario. Big Guy still down. He should be recovered eventually by Shadow. They just need kind of some confirmation that there's no flank happening from the top of the tower. The Adrenal Surge will come through, and that will get the Hib back into the fight here. WSU Tech looking to close out their first 3 versus 2.
They're going to have to find these final 2 kills with no HE grenades. They do have plenty of flashbangs. 2, in fact. Trev goes for the trade, and it's now just Arfie left in a 1v2. Their opponents are low HP, but the same thing could be said for the Jaeger. They're going to have to be very mindful of when they take these gunfights and how they take the gunfights. The best opportunity is when Shadow goes to the plant. It's going to be a temporarily 1v1, but Big Guy has been known for having impeccable coverage, and Jaeger's crouch walk is heard from Big Guy. The coverage will still be impeccable, and that's WSU Tech going 3 in a row.
Especially that matters because it's on the attack as well. Oregon, when you're shedding all of these defensive rounds, becomes so impossible in the late game, right? You have to trudge further and further up that offensive mountain. And WSU Tech already adding significant rounds to their bank. And, you know, Barton, how are they going to be able to respond? I think that basement defense, it's a step in the right direction. You had the Jaeger, you had the Miro, they were working together. The defense kind of stepped up, right, as the attackers begin to kind of come at a couple different angles, but ultimately they could not close it out, and as soon as that Hibana got back into the fight, she was on low HP, she got in, she got the trade. It brings it down to a single member, and we haven't seen WSU Tech lose a situation where they've got a man up versus a single individual yet.
And Barton Community College, once again, had moments of brilliance there, Reese. It was their mid-round trades, is their ability to bring a very impossible scenario winnable, which is something that we said across the past 3 rounds, Reese. I'm just waiting for Barton to come together as a cohesive team and taking these gunfights. I think that's really what's hurting Barton right now, is its individual superhuman-style plays that are almost clutching. Instead of having one individual, have the entire team come together. And I think that's, again, one of the compliments that we give WSU Tech. Frequently, they look at like a single entity, one giant mind, one giant player, just playing Rainbow Six Siege. And Barton right now, they look more like 5 individuals.
Definitely so, and it really will show you in the early game evidence of that, where Barton just had members kind of in a couple different sporadic positions, and they have trouble getting those players to work together. On Oregon, that kind of is the way things will go in the early game here. If you're trying to play more of a loose roam, it's hard to string those picks together. Joe Burrow on the attempted run-up misses every shot towards the player at Master Balcony, and so he looks down in shame, hoping that Jester might make up for that mistake.
Sure, he wasn't able to find any damage whatsoever, but I'm glad that Barton has not given up. Reese are still taking the initiative to be very aggressive, and you know what? That's continuing throughout the map. You got Jester on the roam, you got Salty Archer getting the revenge tour from their previous opening death, and that's a perfect step in the right direction once again for Barton, finding their 3rd opening death over the past 4 rounds.
Things not so good. It's always somebody dying early, and for the Hibana as well. When you don't have Maverick in the composition, things become quite cumbersome. The way that you're going to come at this is quite challenging, and you're going to have to funnel in through a couple different single doorways. The one thing is here only a single C4 in the defensive lineup, so your ability to stop a prospective plant if somehow WSU Tech can barge their way in, it's going to be relatively challenging. The Flores drone gets the ADS, and it does for a moment force Salty Archer back. Jester takes the top of the stairs as he looks on, waiting to see what the next move will be here for the attackers.
This is a third offense for WSU Tech, and it's a completely different one since we saw back in round 1 and round 2. They're changing things up, but the same thing can be said for Barton, because they still have the extended roam. A nitro cell from below can be lethal for a team that prioritizes the plan, especially if you go for default plants. WSU Tech springs, they find 2 kills, but Barton's playing heads up. They're doing an excellent job of trading, and now they once again own the man advantage.
Looked like Skunky kind of traveled too deep there. The shotgun was waiting in the tucked corner. Joe Burrow on the lurk below. Here's your opportunity for WSU. Isolate the remaining players on the site. They're going to use the replicator to try to gather that intel, but the Mozzie realizes the flank play is not the call that's going to work out here, and they have the necessary info now. A grenade from Chosen thought of for a moment, but these last 2 players only have 20 seconds. They need to make a play. They need to go now. In comes the flashbangs to burn the ADS, and Urfi will likely be the first player in the confrontation. He's waiting deep on Hobo, and he gets the first. Shadow walked right into that one, and though Chosen does eventually pick off Joe Burrow, he will not make a second.
That's exactly what we needed out of Barton Community College, Reese. It was a beautiful defense. They find the opening kill. Big guy dies for the second time the opening death so far this series, and WSU Tech crucially was unable to trade it out. It took them over 60 seconds to find the answer back. To Trev Mack's credit, they were able to find 2 in that endeavor, and it was able to neutralize the roster count, but it's a little bit too late. Finally, the bane of the opening deaths for WSU Tech is there to bite them in the backside, and more crucially, it was the strength of that final defending hold from Barton. The beautiful crossfires of the 3 remaining members set up was just something that WSU Tech could never overcome.
Things really kind of heading back towards a more positive note, and you would hope so. The defense, they need to get some accumulation up here. If they continue to lose to the offense, as I mentioned earlier, it's only going to make the second half a little more challenging. And we'll go to the basement. We'll see how this one panned out. It was a close effort last time we played this here. Unfortunately, Barton, though, they suffered 2 early casualties, one of which shouldn't have happened at all. The smoke was sitting on cams here inside Elbow, and the Flores drone just rolled right up, touched off, and the smoke could not get out quick enough. That's one thing. You do kind of have to be a little bit more heads up, especially for a composition that does not have a mute. The basement site is terribly difficult to play without those jammers because the Flores drones, they just come and they keep on coming. And you've got that ability to blow up all the shields, all the mirrors, all the evil eyes from the Maestros and the Banshees from the Malusi. Your utility is vulnerable, Barton, and I almost wonder why you wouldn't call for the mute here.
There is maybe a way to get past the mute. You do have I'm a Toaster 5000 playing the mirror, and that mirror window should be able to deny drones driving in through the exterior portion of J Bunker, because in theory, you should be able to quick jiggle peek around that mirror, shoot the RCXD drone, and then all of a sudden, Salty Archer doesn't have to deal with that drone. Also, you can kind of set up like a crossfire like we saw back in the previous round on that drone. You see the way Salty Archer is playing right now? Shotgun up. Most likely Skunky's drone won't be able to enter in that premises, and WSU Tech Reese are not actually ready to go for that style of execute. They have homework to do first, and that's putting Chosen on the back stairs, and they're going to use the RCXD drones to gather information and remove barbed wire and blue sea wub-wubs.
That kind of gives you your ability to step forward. Joe Burrow is still up inside of T3, though. Not much attention being paid to him. You can see the window's been cracked open. WSU Tech, they didn't forget about this opportunity last time. I wouldn't expect them to be ignorant of it on the second attempt, though. Judging by Shadow's body language, I think they are a little wary of that top pressure. Joe Burrow will have to play his moments carefully. You need a drone. You need a way to watch this. Got an air jab to lock off that rotation. However, the Malusi hasn't shot it. So, as of now, it's really just a guessing game what Malusi is up to. Single wall open. That's your window here for Trev Mack, and he does peer through it. No defenders immediately presenting themselves. Toaster caught in the open. The grenade blows him up before he can get back to cover. In the meanwhile, though, Urfi on the trade. Joe Burrow comes in for 2. The late flank undetected. And WSU Tech reeling in the mid-round.
A missed drone is going to be costly for WSU Tech, but they do have information. They know it's going to be a 2v2 on site, so they're going to go straight in for the execute. Jester falls, and Big Guy is now deep in sight. Flashbangs to leverage pressure and try to push in through Closet. Flashed into oblivion. The knife is good, and now it's Joe Burrow. 2 in the round already, Reese, after a great flank, and they're going to have to go for the quad if they want to find victory here. But Barton Community College with a 2 in their column, but they don't know where WSU Tech is currently playing. Skunky along angle in pillar, denying access from the score frame of Freezer. The red ping gives out the information. Joe Burrow's able to slip the net, though. A missed opportunity for WSU Tech. Big guy is now gun up after putting the diffuser down. He's good for that final kill. WSU Tech, they get slaughtered in from behind, but they play the objective. They do what they've been doing all season, planting the bomb and forcing Barton Community College to scramble after the fact.
Exactly. It's the quick strike ability that gets WSU Tech over the line, realizing the roam and going, not waiting for even a moment. The Malusi, sure, she gets two, and she was a huge problem there. A costly mistake. Ultimately, was the cost really that bad enough for WSU Tech, who overwhelmed the situation in the 2 versus 3? I think if you talk about this from a talent standpoint, you've got two very different rosters. WSU Tech, they're not really accustomed to the JUCO playstyle, and this was a point I tried to mention earlier on the basement when we had that Flores drone blow up, right, and it kind of cut me off. WSU Tech, the 4 members of this roster for Treadmack, Chosen, Skunky, and Big Guy have played together with each other for a considerable amount of time, and it wasn't in this scholastic atmosphere. It was in the amateur scene for Rainbow Six, which the playstyle there, it's just totally different. And they managed to reach pretty high up in a lot of the amateur leagues. Barton CC have been a JUCO team, bred and born. That's what they're used to. The playstyle right now for WSU Tech, it's just far different than anything you would expect.
But Barton Community College has built quite a legacy here in the junior college scene. There's a reason why they're an NJCAA 2-time champion, finding victory back in the fall and then in a previous championship before that. So a very strong team when it comes to Rainbow Six Siege. And Reese, right now, I just think we're seeing the scene develop with new talent entering into the collegiate ecosystem. Barton has been, again, that legacy roster has played so well, and well, now they're playing against a new juggernaut entering in.
Online, and for Skunky bringing the Ying, I mean, it's a great choice. Really can shake things up. You mentioned it earlier, WSU Tech, they have kind of changed their lineup almost every round. Like, they will really go at it from a couple different options. Bringing in things like the Ionic gives you that quick intel that WSU Tech have fallen back on in some rounds. But the Ying, I mean, in the recent meta, she pretty much defines the way that the basement is played. Given you've got the Cade ban as well, I think things have kind of swung towards the offense a little bit on this bottom floor. Because of that, your chances to stop any kind of hard breaching from happening are almost solely reliant in plays like Jester, just sitting in the kitchen and waiting for something to happen.
Is he going to find a play here? He's been lurking in this corner, undroned out. There's a Dokkaebi call. Everybody from WSU Tech should be, hey, wait, there's a phone call in this middle floor. There has to be somebody nearby. Skunky's on the other side of the wall, and phone audio propagates through, and maybe the call from Skunk is like, hey, I know for a fact somebody's off site, just like we saw Joe Burrow in the previous round, so you know what? Let's let them rot. Let's go for the execute, because we can kind of overwhelm the site. You can kind of think of it like you're executing an attack on Valorant or CSGO. You just try to overwhelm the defenders in the bomb site and wait for the repercussions of that rotation later.
Well, all things considered, has been a fairly slow round in terms of that entry fight that we've often seen. Barton CC have led in that opening kill category, but have not struck yet. Don't count them out, though. Jester and Joe Burrow are still two players who can really get in and find some action. And there comes the Legion. He gets the kill in security. Big guy down. Your Hibana eliminated. And now that the Legion is, well, understood to be in this security spot, tracking him down, isolating him is going to be quite the difficult challenge. You do have the Candelas, though, and Skunky begins to cook one. Sends it in on close, and the Legion forced into the back. He's facing the wrong direction, and we'll see Skunky go for the knife. The second melee from WSU Tech. The execute is just on the horizon.
I've never seen so many melee kills in my life. WSU Tech has the confidence to be able to do so frequently, but they have the confidence to be able to win this round. Skunky leads the charge, so they're saying, absolutely, we do, but you still have more targets to find. Smoke grenade coverage, and the final round, the Candelas go out. Skunky going nuclear on the quad. Salty now the last one left, stuck in a corner. There's smoke grenades all around them, and Skunky's still hunting. You have no utility. You just got the shotgun, so it forces Archer out of their cubby hidey hole with the yellow pings already there. That's 5-1 in the half. Where the attacking side of WSU Tech, they just storm the bomb site.
Wow, they have just kind of flown into this series and left almost nothing behind. And Barton CC look rattled after that first half. Sure, you can say the Cade not being available did make life pretty tough for the defense, especially with Maverick being there as well. One point we did used to make as casters is when you ban the Cade, if Maverick is left up, the offense have so many tools to be able to unravel all of your setups, even on a map like Oregon, which is just the defensive holy grail. WSU Tech didn't stop for a moment, only losing that single round when they went to dorms and things got a little crazy. They tried to go too quick, which has been, sort of a problem. WSU Tech, because they are such a fast team, there is those times where the risk being as big as the reward comes in to bite you.
One of my favorite strategies is kind of what WSU Tech is bringing, as I call it, like the double gumball or triple gumball machine, where you just place them all on top of like one area and you kind of like, hey, if you guys need health, go back to the healing stations, almost like you're kind of playing like Halo or something with like dedicated like med kits. And the reason I bring that up, and probably the reason why we see T-Bird, is there's no primary shotgun and there's technically no secondary shotgun other than Skunky's bailiff pistol, but they're just not going to be using that because, well, you have the Oryx. You can remit dash through walls. Who needs to remake a bomb site with a shotgun when you can just run through the wall?
Yeah, Oryx has kind of been an operator gaining popularity both in the collegiate level as well as kind of at large. Given he's got that 1.5x optic, he can run around, he can jump through hatches. I mean, he's sort of a multi-tool when you look at the way that he can be played. Early aggression from WSU Tech, hoping for a challenge outside of that main doorway. It won't come right now from Barton CC, but don't count it out that it will potentially come later. Big guy will fall off of it, though, transitioning as he understands the pressure to be from this master bedroom side. The composition for Barton looks a little different. Never had that capital in the first half from WSU Tech, but given he's got that secondary breachers, he can almost be your sort of reserve hard breach if you do have some early issues. If the ace goes down, Salty Archer can step in as well. Having an LMG is a really good thing for an operator in the current meta, and the utility of the Capital, while a little nuanced, still can provide some serious execute power.
There's the LMG or highlining, and now if you want to go deeper into your execute, you just use a drone, and you can accurately place your smoke grenades or your fire bolts wherever you need. And look where WSU Tech is playing. They're playing so far away from big window. It actually might be an opportunity to do something similar to what WSU did back in round number 1, kind of going for that fast style of play, that immediate execute. Trevmac goes DBNO, but with a gumball machine over and Pit, they're actually going to be relatively fast back up on their feet as they're healed up, well, above 75 HP.
Wondering about the end game right now for Barton CC. What are they going to think about? Just hopping in from the window seems to be their main motive. Toaster working the pressure from outside the kids' rappel, having not yet spotted any targets. WSU Tech are doing well to play a little reserved, knowing that they've got the angle below, and they've also still got that one body down. They need to do something that forces Barton CC to kind of, quicken up their pace a little bit, and with how reserved they've been playing, I think they're on the right track. The Capital Flame comes into the middle of dorms, but it does not extinguish Trevmac's pressure in the back. A grenade will accomplish that task, though. Barton CC now in the 5-on-3. Things swiftly shift back, though. Shadow guns down Toaster. Unfortunately, though, Joe Burrow comes back for Barton and lessens the chances for WSU here.
Not a cover place for WSU Tech to be in an all race right now. The only thing you have going in your direction is Big Guy covering Big Window. The Nitro Self in Big Guy finds an additional 1, but it's now just all on that player. Big Guy against 2. Good for 1, and now Salty Archer solo HP against an LMG. Salty can just spray mouse 1, but they have to be very mindful of the clock reese. They're going to elect to go for a plant, and Big Guy does have that audio, and it's an awkward position for Big Guy to defend. Off the diffuser, though, Salty may have made a critical mistake there as it goes 0-0. Big Guy's going to know to make the charge, and Barton is just not going to stick it, and they're going to concede that round. That's going to be match point here on Oregon for WSU Tech.
I mean, that is really a must-win situation for Barton. They had to close out the advantage there. It took them so long to get through the window. They had Joe Burrow achieving heroics on the vert downstairs, but their pressure up above couldn't convert, and it speaks to a truth which has been known for Barton so far in this map. They have really struggled trading out their deaths, and their positioning is where you see it the most, with players running ahead of the rest of the take and getting isolated there, not being able to work together, not calling out that I can't push, this area is not safe, I don't have a drone, I don't have the info, I'm not comfortable enough to make this push forward. The decision making has been a little off bat today, and WSU Tech are sitting here and exploiting it, continuing to play their own game, which has so far won them 6 rounds, including 5 offensive victories.
And as what you're alluding to, Reese, is just simply the mechanical skill of WSU Tech. It is honestly a liability to take 1v1 gunfights against WSU Tech. And what it comes down to from Barton is they're going to have to be much smarter with their utility usage. And they certainly were in the previous round. I mean, there's a reason why in round number 7, Barton was going in at a 2v4, because they were smart with their utility. They're playing grenades from below, and that's just something they're going to have to carry into future rounds. Unfortunately, with the strength of the previous round, the nade utility from below, it's going to be absent since we're downstairs in the basement. It's impossible to go below the defenders this time, so now you're going to have to go for more traditional heads-up gunfights. And again, Barton Community College has been struggling with that, so they're going to have to play together as a team, especially without your superstar player, your top frag of Joe Burrow.
Yeah, well, that's part of the grenades out of the question there as well. So as much as it's on the basement and your opportunities are pretty slim to get any kind of early kill off the back of those explosives through the floor, now you've only got 2 left, and Jester really has to choose wisely what he's going to blow up, knowing that not only do you have plenty of bulletproof utility in the form of Banshees as well as Trez Max deployable, you also have a huge target named Shadow who is going to prove so difficult to clear out. If you don't have nades, you may end up relying on something like the flame bolts from the Capital, or simply trying to just melee, kind of bash that shield and get the shots on target. Mozzie prone in the green hallway, Trebmac with another one, but Skunky being pushed back on here does not complete the initial engagement there against Jester, the first one back for Barton Community College.
Well, you lost Skunky on the roam. Trevor, the other rover, has been recalled back to the bomb site to heal up with a T-Bird gumball utility. And now, well, they're once again taking an aggressive stance over in green.
Max still just kind of lurking on the stairs, and it does take me back to earlier in the game when it was Joe Burrow who had waited for so long back on those rear stairs, just waiting for his opportunity, and big guy up above in the dorms area as well. Barton CC already being kind of low on time. It makes you wonder, are they going to be able to kind of clear this one out? How are they going to respond with big guy who is undetected, who is rotating down? They're going to try to maybe move past it a little quicker. It won't work out. Big guy strikes quick enough. Urfi goes down. Only 2 left here, and Barton's chances remain entirely on behalf of the Iana, who's gone down to big guy now, racing forward, and Toaster locked into the hallway. WSU Tech in the championship match, the biggest game of the NJCAA season, have lost out. Ultimately, their offense was so punishing. The WSU Tech clean up for a 7-1.
That was a dominant performance from WSU Tech, Reese. We've been seeing them take the attacking side consistently from their regular season games here in NJCAA to their postseason games, and simply WSU Tech honestly looks like a team that is an attacker-sided team, if you will. They are just clinical. They play together as a team. They identify gaps in the defense. Big guy goes straight in for the plant, and that's actually kind of what I want to talk about. Big guy was the opening death twice, and in fact, WSU Tech was opening death 5 times compared to Barton Community College's 3 opening deaths. And still WSU Tech won 7-1. That is just unheard of. I mean, statistically, we always talk about opening deaths. Usually, if you win the opening death, you usually win the round. That was just simply not the case for Barton. They were unable to convert those opening kills into round victories.
And that's going to become even more difficult when you get on the coastline, which winning that entry kill is the most important thing, realistically, that you need to do to get that momentum. Mentioned on Oregon, when you get that entry, when you swing the balance, you generally will get that momentum. Didn't matter for WSU Tech, though. They shut it down. They were trading like crazy, and that will be so important on the quick-natured coastline, which we'll get to after a quick 5-minute break.
The NJCAA R6 Grand Finals are once again back. The returning champions, Barton Community College, find themselves a map disadvantage against WSU Tech, who just steamrolled them on Oregon. Reese, the storyline gets a bit more bitter, though. WSU Tech is going to their best map choice of Coastline. Is there anything that Barton can do to just shut down the bulldozer that is WSU Tech, or is this ending in 2 maps?
Well, I think for Barton, the biggest thing right now has got to be improving on converting that entry kill. Sure, we know they've got the players who can make that entry happen, but they have had an immense amount of difficulty getting another one and trying to stack bodies on top of that. And it's not just about winning the entry kill and then increasing your man count. It's also how you play around that, making sure you're falling back, right? You've got all the different angles. Everybody's working together. I suppose, though, Brian, to play the devil's advocate here, as much as WSU Tech's best map is where we're headed next, it's also Barton's best map. Additionally, the strongest performance from them in the postseason here for NJCAA was on this very map just before in the semifinals.
Oh no, what is WSU Tech going to do? They've banned Jackal every single map of every single series so far this year for NJCAA, and now Jackal's banned. And you can see them deliberating right there. They don't know who to ban because they've banned one operator. Is it a Thatcher? Is it going to be normal? It's a Capitao. Wow, I can't remember the last time I've seen a Cap ban.
And immediately my brain draws to the fact that it was, Barton who used a lot of Capital in the previous map. You could say it's a bit of a target pick there. Get rid of the Capital. You won't have those bolts kind of shifting you off position, and it kind of will lock you in place as well. As we crack through the final defenders, there's your typical cap can selection from WSU Tech. I wanted to bring something up. We know Barton are probably going to ban Mira or Valkyrie here, so it's time to move on to another conversation. That one being Azami. Chief, across the ecosystem of collegiate and of pretty much every, esport game, tournament, league, etc. in Rainbow Six, Azami's banned. Not so for NJCAA. There was only a 2-week quarantine. She's available now, and WSU Tech actually did have some difficulty when St. Clair were using that operator.
Because Azami is a reactionary operator. She essentially can create her own deployable shield and her own off angles whenever she chooses, as long as she has some surface to kind of throw her spreading concrete devices. And that is something that a lot of teams just aren't simply prepared for, because a traditional deployable shield, you drone it out, you kind of already know what utility you need to break it down, and Azami can basically create a deployable shield at whim right in front of you. And how do you deal with that on the fly, especially if you're low on utility?
Yeah, it's really kind of a point that I would usually talk about from a defender context for the operator of Osa, right? Because you think about Osa, the way that she plays is not something the defenders really ever have to deal with. And a piece of utility as a defender that you need to clear. Almost always, defenders are clearing hard breach utility. Other than that, air jabs. I mean, there's not really, the same relationship that you get between attackers and the deployable shields. You always need to burn. If you don't have soft destruction as an attacker, you are trolling, because you're limiting your ability to clear out these terrible pieces of defender bulletproof gadgetry that you're going to have to get past. It's the same for Osa, but it also does come up in the conversation of Azami as well, because think about, the bulletproof gadgets that you've got on the defense. Banshees, 3 of them. Deployable shields, usually you got 1 or 2. Goyo, in his old version, used to have 2 Vulcan shields. Azami has 5 kunai knives that she generates through the course of the round. That is a lot that you will need to clear.
You know what? I want to go back to the Osa point just for one more time. I know we're currently in the middle of the execute with a Thatcher EMP is going off, but in every single first-person shooter you play, whether or not it's CSGO, Valorant, Call of Duty, having a shield get placed in front of you as an attacking team just doesn't happen. And you're right, like, even if you were to be like a pro in CS, that's just something you could kind of like never really overcome. It's very difficult to overcome. Just like the EMPs going off on the exterior portion of the VIP wall. I like that Barton brought out the Cade. I like how that they've expanded into VIP, but Thatcher is usually a default ban on just about every single map. And was Shadow near the bomb site right there when they lost their life? I think they were.
Early casualty. Shadow has had games where he really has not really spoke to much impact, and that is kind of the reality of being on the support role. And again, there's the point about the inability for Barton to convert on that entry kill. They lose one after the fact of Shadow being eliminated, and it's on to Urfi as well, who was a pretty clutch mid-round player from the moments where the Barton defense looked strong back on the earlier map of Oregon. Joe Burrow with the run out, and he does land the headshot. Chosen eliminated, and your big window pressure, now having been dealt with, does put a bit of extra stress on the shoulders of WSU. Skunky being down, in the meanwhile, Trebmac trying to make up for that, though.
Already Barton Community College coming together, demonstrating why Coastline is their paradise, why it's their best map choice, and they're playing long angles while also playing together as a team. They're able to leverage those runouts in a comfortable position for Barton Community College to be in. 40-odd seconds to play with for WSU Tech. They're close by each other, but crucially, they don't have a lot of utility to work with. No grenades, and the only throwable is flashbangs, and the desperate play is Trev just crouch walking into sight. Good for one, but I'm a Toaster is able to shut that down, and now it's all on the Plant King themselves. Big guy who's once again crouch walking into sight, and Reese, it doesn't work for them, and that's a critical round for Barton Community College, their first round victory here on Coastline.
And their first round victory in what has been a really long time. They need to start building up kind of this extra presence, and they do get across the line from the offside as well, going to Penthouse first. Some teams will do that. Maybe they've really felt that they've stratted out and they've played a lot of scrims on this objective in particular. They want to get it going earlier. The closest parallel I would draw is for teams on Clubhouse that will begin on Villa. You feel comfortable in that tertiary objective? Let's go to it first. Let's see how it plays out, and it's a big way that you can test the waters. WSU Tech weren't prepared for it, and though they did skirmish back and forth, eventually I'm a Toaster was able to clean up and close out.
Kitchen should be a fun sight to see, because I'm curious to see what WSU Tech is going to do. How traditional of an attack are they going to... Are they going to just flood into sight and have big guy crouch walk and plant? Are they going to try to open up the triple wall? Or are they going to do what most teams tend to do? Push vertically, open up VIP walls, start to swing that sledgehammer, the flat place breaching charges of Zofia or the Ash that Trev has now just 7th picked into, and remove the defenders from their comfortable fighting positions vertically.
Vertical game is such a valuable concept on the Kitchen site, but WSU Tech, I've got a recent example of their Coastline having casted it yesterday in the semifinals against St. Clair. They never tried to go for the vertical pressure. Every attack that they did was majority horizontal pressure. They would send somebody in really early to take control of office and move to the back of security to cut off the main lobby rotation, and it looks like things are kind of going towards that direction this time as well. In fact, there's Chosen moving in as the crucial pillar, again, of that security cutoff pressure that I mentioned.
So map control, well established for WSU Tech. They've actually probably secured about 50% of that first floor, and they're just going to forgo that topmost floor. So no real vertical, and Joe Burrow, not hearing any destruction above, is starting to question what is going on, and they take a lot of HP loss into the Chosen LMG. They know where that gunfight took place from, and Joe Burrow is now hopping on the megaphone and calling to the Barton University teammates that they have, saying, hey guys, it's a very traditional push, it's a very linear push right now, and we need to be gun up to try to deny the door frames, not looking towards the ceiling.
Yeah, you do kind of have to make the knowledge of that rotation, and it seems the execute might be on the way. Here comes the Adrenal Surge. We've got 2 players stacked up outside of the kitchen window. The Sledge monitoring the cross with Chosen as well, seeing if maybe Joe Burrow is going to try to leap down into the courtyard and deny this plan. It's a really well set up execute, and I think the action is in motion here. The Maestro trying to stop it. It's Toaster for one. He can't get the second. Big guy cuts him out, and Skunky involved there as well. Possession of the bomb for Big Guy, but now Trebmac has been down, and the defense should maybe have a shot at closing out here. Salty Archer's been down. Still some ambiguity about the position of Joe Burrow, who's all the way up top inside of Billiards. Finally, we'll have the Finka boost come in, and that revives Trebmac, who gets in and confirms the down smoke. There's another one. Look at that, tucked left inside of security, and Jester still waits here. Nobody yet to push him, though. And Joe Burrow on such a sliver of HP can't really do much for this challenge. Big Guy coming back in. Jester still unknown in service. Finally, somebody moves in to swing him, and Jester loses out on that opportunity, giving away a crucial kill. Joe Burrow is not in fighting form whatsoever, but look at the 3 remaining members of the attack here. All of them is on pretty low HP. HP and no remaining adrenal surges, it won't matter. They don't get in a gunfight. It's the explosive that does in the final player.
A well-placed nade in the door frame, perfectly landed, and there we go. WSU Tech finds their first victory. Downstairs in the kitchen, an odd attack, Reese, as they prioritize the door frames and the windows. But what really helped WSU Tech during that round, Reese, was they played the trade game. That was absent on Oregon. We talked about the 5 opening deaths that WSU Tech suffered on Oregon. That was kind of absent there. They just pushed together as a team, whether or not it was the Alda rifling bullets over their head. WSU Tech said, you know what, we're going to make sure that we trade indefinitely, and that trade game allows the plant to eventually go down, and the low HP Joe Burrow is just not going to be able to make any play whatsoever.
Back to kitchen again. WSU Tech have kind of tried to rotate their strategies, have gone for a couple different takes in this match so far. On Oregon, we saw when they attacked dorms, they had practically a different look for that bomb site every single time they would approach it. And we'll see if that is true here on Coast as well. They don't have a buck or a fuse or anything like that. The sledge is really your only contributor towards any kind of vertical pressure. And WSU Tech, they might not try to go for that. It's an attempted spawn kill by Joe Burrow, and he should have a target. The Lion is on the way. No, the Lion actually taking the safe route there. It's a smart call. Trev Mack will avoid the early death, and it really just speaks to his experience for such a minute thing. Trev not making himself available to the spawn peek attempt.
Jester is also trying to catch a member of WSU Tech slacking on their entry into the map, and thankfully, WSU Tech can kind of wipe the sweat off their brow, and they're much slower, they being WSU Tech this round, Reese. They had full control of offices in the previous round in pretty much the first 20 seconds. Now they're 20 seconds behind, and even if they do end up pushing in through offices, Jester from Barton is right above waiting for that to happen, but WSU Tech has something else up their sleeve. They're going for another completely different attack here in kitchen. They're going for a service over push.
Oh, and Skunky is just in the bathroom for a 2-piece. Here comes the Oryx to drop the hatch. That is just phenomenal. Treadmack lighting up the scoreboard there with assistance from the sledge as well. Grenade in, removes the shield. Toaster has no safe cover, cannot feasibly move through this rotate. You've got the Talon shield wielding Osa starting to move in as well. And the grenade for Skunky to combine and making a triple kill for the SAS attacker. Ultimately, that defense crumbled in an instant. Barton CC have so many lessons on that kitchen site to go over.
That is the worst place to be, Reese. A 1v4 with grenades, 4 gun barrels, and a lion call pinning you to a fixed position, and there's just simply nothing that you can do. If you run, you get red pinged, and you're basically going to get sentry gunned by WSU Tech. And if you stay there, hot grenade is going to blow you into smithereens. And again, an unenviable position because WSU Tech, simply put, Reese, they just stormed the bomb site proper. Barton Community College just could not stop that. Again, the hallmarks of WSU Tech is just you push the bomb site as quickly as possible, overwhelm the defenders, force the roamers to be recalled, and during that recall, WSU Tech just monitors all those flank points, whether or not it's an Oryx dropping through a hatch or somebody coming in through a door frame. WSU Tech has permanent tabs on whatever Barton Community College is bringing.
5 seconds to insertion.
Yeah, and I think Barton CC were just expecting kind of a more general push to come across the top floor, and WSU Tech will not give that to them. They don't like to deal with the roam up above. They prefer the simpler option. Coastline can be a simple, basic map. It's the complexity that does trip up some teams, and WSU Tech say, nah, let's not deal with that. We're not going to try to clear this extension when we know we've got things like the Oryx up above. Let's go direct. Let's push early. Let's just send a player into the bathroom. And what do you know it? Skunky gets 2 kills. WSU Tech have been doing that against JUCO teams this entire semester of play. They will go in quick. They will not mince words. They are the kind of team that, again, when they see an opportunity, no matter how much risk is there, it's like the risk doesn't even matter.
I was concerned about Jester at the start of this round, Reese, because they were hyper-aggressive over in Aqua, and if you get drone there, you're simply just not going to be leaving there alive. But they've been recalled to a deeper portion of the bomb site. Toaster falls a bit early, and that was a rotation between the actual bomb site itself, and you could already hear the artillery barrage of grenades starting to bounce, trying to soften up positions for Barton Community College, and I think WSU Tech might be moments away from going for the execute. Speaking of the devil, there's the plant and impeccable coverage. Impact grenades from below, maybe. Just you can't be on your cam. There's Trevor right next door to you, my friend. Post plan, and now it's a double retake. Joe Burrow finds one. A comrade in crime, though, Salty Archer there to back them up, but WSU Tech, they're playing really long angles, and they have an even better position. They have Trev Mack from below, able to ash charge as Salty even touches the diffuser, which they won't, because the 44 auto mag, the ACOG pistol, finds the final kill.
These rounds feel like they go so fast, it's hard to even really get much of a word in. The round begins, WSU Tech kind of feel it out for a second, and then they just blitzkrieg right on through. And I have to mention, this is not a best of 5. There are only 3 maps, and we only get to that third. We only go to the decider if Barton CC can start to mount a comeback. It is difficult to defend on Coastline, right? That's kind of the trouble with going to this map. You realize sometimes you pick it, you're going to have to go on the more hard side, and Barton CC have just not had much luck in stopping the wave of pressure from WSU Tech. I'm not sure what I would really suggest to them at this point. I think the Azami would be a great selection. However, I have to venture a guess that they might not know it's available, because it is kind of an ambiguity. You're used to that 3-month waiting period to not be able to use the operator. Maybe Barton CC don't have it unlocked. Maybe nobody's got the battle pass and has got the operator yet, because Azami is so helpful, especially for post plants. Having those having those kunai knives gives you that extra bit of cover. It forces the attackers to rely on utility that they might not have after they've just executed. And with how many times these rounds end with the plant for WSU Tech, the kunais could be invaluable if Barton just started using them.
This is an odd bomb site rotation. Penthouse in round 1, double kitchens, and now double hookah. Why didn't Barton go back to Penthouse? The only round that they won was on Penthouse, and it's been unlocked for a while.
Maybe they have to feel like they win these other sites and they kind of prove that they can, have a more succinct rotation. I honestly, I don't know the answer.
And maybe there isn't one other than just Barton is comfortable on other sites. Maybe they felt that they kind of won it in a, haha, we caught you off guard, my friend, and there's nothing you can do about it. But maybe if that's the key, if that's the key to Barton winning defending rounds, why not try to spice things up? Go back to Penthouse, even go to Blue Bar and Sunrise Bar. I mean, there's a time, Reese, where that was one of the strongest bomb sites, and it's just currently not being brought out. You do have Joe Burrow lurking over by Blue Bar, and I don't think WSU Tech knows that they're there. Chosen certainly didn't. They lost their life, and now Joe Burrow has to decide, do I stand my ground and continue to deny the Vibes stairwell, or do I fall off? They're going to elect to stand their ground, a bold decision, but you know what? I think it's the right one, because we've seen Barton Community College make great plays off their aggression. Unfortunately, though, the yellow pink drone is even better for Skunky.
And there's your window. The plant's starting to come down. Toaster has no luck in yet being able to deny this, and it's going to be completed by WSU Tech unless a miracle can come onto the server. The Clash, one of 2 final defenders, and this is quite possibly the worst situation for her to be in. Realistically, no support here from Urfi. He was still working the rotation, and he doesn't even make it to the rotate hole. WSU Tech are stacking even more rounds.
Oh my, Reese, this is dominant from WSU Tech. And again, Barton Community College is a very strong team in the junior college ecosystem. There's a reason why they are the defending champions from the fall semester. They've been playing brilliantly over the past few semesters, and WSU Tech is just bringing something to the table, and I think they just haven't seen just the raw mechanical gun skill. And even when WSU Tech makes honestly kind of dangerous plays with Chosen not being droned into Blue Bar, WSU Tech still is able to turn rounds on their head because they just click heads.
And for Barton, I mean, they just can't get in front of it. WSU Tech, this game, if you knew the VOD was available, this is an easy review. Like, I mean, just for us casters as well, there's so many things that we've just looked back to the other VOD and said, okay, this will happen. The quick plants. the use of multiple different takes and rotating, not doing the same thing. The way that WSU Tech, sometimes when they're met with a very complex defense, will just run in, will just go quick. And the cap can ban should be the most obvious sign of that. They don't want these traps waiting on doors that they would have to look for. So they ban that, and it allows them to do those quick attacks. For Barton, there should have been so much material to VOD review coming into this game. But right now, it's not time for a conversation about the review or the prep work. It's about the here and now. It's about coming into that form that we know Barton can make possible. Being the team that have just won the previous fall semester, they should realistically have a much better fighting chance in this because WSU Tech are just kind of smoking them right now.
Going to Penthouse Reese, that's at least a step in the right direction. Barton Community College has a history of winning on this bomb site. Again, back in round one, the only round that Barton Community College has won has been here. So it's a comfortable position for them to be in, but it's not comfortable if Jester gets opening death. That's probably the most important defender in the Barton Community College lineup. That is Laura Tachanka. The Shamika launcher is critical because it allows you to deny from very safe positions. If we see big guy go for a plant, it's really the fire grenades with the Shamika launcher that can deny that comfortably. Now you don't have that, and we have to look at the other bits of utility. 2 sets of nades that could be good for some crucial kills, but it requires Barton to be much more aggressive with it.
Maybe kind of getting a little bit extra on the pace might help you out here because WSU Tech are finding bodies that are just sort of waiting for something to happen, especially on Jester early. He was alive for so long in the previous round. Now you've just got an attacker running deep into the site. A C4 will stop the plant. That's a huge sigh of relief for Barton, but they better have a second Nitro in position because immediately after the fact, the Twitch recovers the bomb and will try for her plant. Toaster is not in position for his C4, and so the diffuser is confirmed, but Joe Burrow having a big round for him. Salty Archer does get the down, but can't confirm the kill here. And so now into the post plant with Shadow deep in the distance. Oh no, he potatoes onto the Ella. Only one attacker left. Here comes the nade. Toaster forced into the jump out. Skunky has one. Now it's your time to shine, but Skunky's got the nade. And so Joe Burrow, it's a race against time here. The frag rolls in, and it'll stop the plant. WSU Tech are on a roll right now.
5 in a row for WSU Tech, and that was a close round. That was a really strong attempt for Barton Community College, Reese, but at the end of the day, they just weren't able to match the kills of WSU Tech. Members of Barton just got too aggressive too early on, and they didn't synchronize when they were challenging that diffuser, because if we saw maybe multiple members of Barton swing together and deny that vertical repel or jump out together, it very certainly could have been a different round. Again, Barton is so close to converting these rounds. Again, there's a reason why they had the most opening kills against WSU Tech back on Oregon. They're a solid roster, but it's small little mistakes that allow WSU Tech to go into their post plant and then defend their post plant.
Just like things had happened on the previous map, where 5-1 attacking split was achieved by WSU Tech, it'll happen again here on Coastline, and things are starting to get a bit desperate for Barton, who, are the team coming into this as the returning champion, looking for their back-to-back, but needing a much better performance. As you say, it's the small things. A couple issues of positioning here or there for Barton. Just sometimes they are not in the right areas at the right time. The utility, sometimes it's misplaced, sometimes it's a miscommunication. And Skunky is going to go ahead and begin the round to get match point with a spawn kill attempt, and he has it. Such a clean one there onto Salty Archer. And the Hib, Archer, despite being 3-7, he has been kind of a big clutch player. He was involved in some close rounds earlier on Oregon, and Barton really just needs to kind of activate him, continue on with what Joe Burrow is doing, but also for Urfi and Jester, the championship game is not the one to be going on a donut in.
Now, every caster in the Sun likes to talk about, hard breachers are really the most important operators. When you lose them, the round's kind of forfeit. This is Coastline. You don't necessarily need a hard breacher. It's a nice luxury to have, but it's not going to be that also damning crucial loss. You're still going to have flexibility going into this round, but it's just going to require your entry, particularly Joe Burrow, to find the entry kill and then be able to trade that back out. Again, Barton has been good with that, but so far, unanswered kills, and Skunky is still lurking upstairs in theater, moments away from being droned, but I bet they're going to stand their ground, and they certainly will.
It's a crucial round. We mentioned, back on Oregon, there was the must-win first round of the second half. Barton could not convert there. They could not convert in the second as well, ultimately led to a 7-1 on that first map of this series. And again, only a best of 3, not a 5-map endeavor, not a third one that you can fall back on and try to defend on the next. Barton are such a good team on Coastline, have proven that in the regular season and in the semifinals too. But today, WSU Tech have played a style that has just been kind of choking for Barton. It has stopped them from doing a lot of what they want to accomplish, and losing Salty Archer so long ago, the fact that Barton haven't yet traded this is starting to become quite a worrisome sign.
Shadow in that clash just being an absolute nuisance. There's just no way that Barton Community College can really pressure that operator. Joe Burrow falls, but Jester finds a kill as well as their mate tagging on Toaster. So that's the trades needed. And now it's going to put Clash as kind of this liability, Reese, because they don't have a primary weapon. Oh, it's the Nitra Cell from Narnia finding the kill. Toaster falls. That could be what propels us to match point. That could be penultimate point here, confirmed in 7. All based off one beautiful Nitro, and Jester and Arfie has to deal with the clash once again. No longer a liability. The taser, the plexiglass shield doing so much damage, and Jester stuck taking damage point after damage point. They lose their life to the Deagle. Match point, series point confirmed for WSU. The speed run confirmed.
And now Barton faced down the barrel of the gun here for WSU Tech. Being on match point, as you say, 6-1. They would need 5 uninterrupted round victories. And to get those 5, you're going to have to totally change up the attacking characteristics here. That last round was not enough. Sure, it was close. Barton have had a lot of close rounds. But close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. It's such an often tread cliche. But after all, whoever gets up to 7... in regulation, you win, and you're going to walk away with the NJCAA title, and for WSU Tech as well. Such a new roster. Totally, an outsider coming into this junior college scene, but sometimes the outsiders, they make the biggest difference because they are very well different.
Now, we have seen teams crumble under the 6-1. Let's go back to St. Clair earlier this week. Before they played WSU Tech, they were at a 5-1 on Coastline, and they threw 5 rounds in a row up until they got to match point. And St. Clair is a team with a lot of bravado and plays very similar to WSU Tech. Reese, it's critical right now that WSU Tech kind of sees the carrot at the end of the tunnel, if you will, the light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to be, let's conclude the series as quickly as possible. Let's do our job. Our job right now is to take gunfights, win gunfights, and play together as a team. And the way you play together as a team is by making a rotation between the sites, which is very much absent right now.
Hopefully that'll be fixed. You certainly got quite a number of C4s in order to correct that, but either way, a point that I wanted to touch on, one I feel like we haven't really mentioned much. This NJCAA Finals is in itself sort of a preview of the Unified Collegiate Championship, that national finals 16-team $20,000 prize event. WSU Tech, not to mince words here, look like the best junior college team that are going to be present at that event, and they have been absolutely miles above their competition for the majority of the semester. Now you've got a pistol-wielding Trebmac fully in his element, challenging, trying to just sprint towards his opponent. He's waiting for the cutoff on the roof, but it just isn't there. Barton CC are bleeding members, are bleeding time, and their star player, their quarterback, so to speak, Joe Burrow, is down and out.
But you got Salty Archer above. Oh, you had Salty Archer. He's no longer there. The Nitrocell removes them from the field of play. And once again, Jester and Arfie, the last ones alive for Barton Community College. That's their last hope here, and against 5 members of WSU Tech. Match point, series point to their back, and you're going to have to be able to shut this down. It's going to require perfect team play for Barton Community College in the attacking side. They begin to drop in through the upstairs master bathroom, and while the members of Barton Community College are starting to play close quarters to each other, that could also be a liability as well. 2 more Nitrocells in the field of play for WSU Tech, and remember, Valkyrie's in play, which means you have eyes on perpetually with cameras. Big Guy's Nitrocell finds its mark. 1v5 here with sub 60 seconds. Reese, sure, you're able to find information with your holograms, but it's going to be definitely a tall order to clutch ace this.
And this is not the round of authority on the second try here on offense for Barton that they needed. 1 player left against the full roster, with Big Guy on the Thunderbird as well, nearly guaranteeing all these members are going to be at full strength as well. And you can just see the way that this strat is played out. The full intel not being checked, not being shut down. You leave Valkyrie up on coastline. That does tend to happen. And Barton, their 1v5 clutch attempt is left to a player with 20 seconds. Urfi steps into the bomb site. He, for a moment, considers the plant, but realizing superior numbers here, there is too many targets, and simply put, not enough ammunition. Urfi runs out of bullets, and WSU Tech, in what has been the most dominant, most definitive result in the history of the NJCAA Grand Finals, are the champions. For a roster which has only been together for 5 months, they deliver a blistering victory.
Barton Community College, the defending champions from the fall semester, crumble to WSU Tech, Reese, and I think this just begins a new dominance, not just in the junior college ecosystem, my friend, but beyond. We've been talking about the Unified Collegiate Championship taking place very soon, and this is going to be the real test for WSU Tech, my friend, because far too long have we been talking about Purdue, Akron, Grand Canyon, Converse, and now if WSU Tech's name isn't on your tip of the tongue when you mention those other 2 teams, or those other teams, I think you're trolling. WSU Tech is here to play. They're the big dog in collegiate, and they absolutely deserve respect. They are an incredible roster, and they just seem to get better and better with age.
And WSU Tech have come into the collegiate atmosphere, into the JUCO atmosphere, and have totally changed things. Yeah, historic victory today is the only way that you can describe this. A flawless season for the first semester of play. This roster just has that it factor about them. And Barton, they played some close rounds today, but ultimately there are so many lessons to go back on from what happened in this match. The way that we saw WSU Tech play was such a pervasive style that got in amidst any defensive strategy and just ripped it to pieces.
I mean, it's gun skill, my friend. Like, that's what it comes down to. It is WSU Tech's ability to win their gunfights. And probably more crucially, we saw WSU Tech make mistakes and make mistakes frequently, right? Let's go back to Oregon. I mean, they were the opening death 5 times compared to their opponents 3 times, but whenever they had a crucial, almost round-killing mistake, somebody just goes nuclear from WSU Tech. They end up going for a plant, and those assets right there is something that a lot of teams just simply can't do. I mean, they're just a true enigma, and it's a pleasure to watch them play.
Yeah, and things were just, devastating today, to say the least, but, for the future, as I mentioned, a lot of mistakes to go over. There are plenty of things to review. WSU Tech are not an unbeatable team, and you're going to see that when they go up to play some of the top 20 teams in the country, when we know that we've got that UCC on the line, and there's $20,000 to be won, the biggest tournament by far that the collegiate scene has ever seen, frankly. And it's going to be just something to witness. You will want to see that starting at the end of the month and ultimately concluding on May 7th and May 8th, possibly even being streamed on the main Rainbow Six channel. For a JUCO team to fight all the way through NJCAAE and make it onto that big stage to be seen by, fans of esports for Rainbow Six around the world, what a joy that would really be.
And we're going to see more rosters than just WSU Tech representing NJCAA in the Unified Collegiate Championship. It's going to be St. Clair, who I also believe is getting points from NECC. It's going to be Sumter and, of course, Barton Community College. And I think that's probably a better storyline for Barton because it's going to be their redemption arc. They're going to have the ability to potentially play WSU Tech once again and also have the ability to play some of those top collegiate teams that we are frequently talking about. Reese, my friend, though, it's time to once again focus our eyes back on the NJCAA Grand Final because Mr. Trevor, or Trev Mack, is joining us for the interview. And honestly, I'm sure he's ecstatic for just setting an absolute precedent in an incredible series.
Yeah, and Trev Mack is going to have a lot to say. We've been able to talk with him for so long, so we'll get him on, we'll pick his brain, and we'll talk to him about many of the different things that we've experienced so far for this season, what WSU have learned, what the adaptations have been coming into this level of play, and how things really are different. But we should be getting to him for a moment. We're having some issues, so we'll resolve that, and we'll just continue to talk about, what has happened this season. I guess I'll ask you, what has been... Okay, he's ready. All right, no more waffling. We'll get to talk to Trev Mack. We'll get him in the call here, and... Well, Trev, congratulations on your victory. It feels good to be here on the big stage, the first semester in, already out of the gate. The roster's on fire. Can you say that the victory tonight was anything other than your expectation?
Nope. Just as planned.
Just planned. I mean, the roster, you guys just played with so much fury. And I mentioned this during the broadcast, during the call. The way that you guys play, it's just different from the rest of the junior college teams. You guys will just go in quick. Is that something that you've learned through, so many years of playing amateur Rainbow Six, that sometimes the best thing to do, the best take to execute is the easiest one, the clearest option?
Absolutely. There's no reason to overthink things.
Right. And, I mean, you guys been Capgate and Jackal near every game, every opportunity. You were taking him away. Is that something you're going to do next semester as well?
Most likely. The one game we didn't ban Capkin yesterday, two of us died to it, so in the same round.
Yeah, you don't want to be walking into those traps. All right, well, Chief?
All right, Trevor, I got to know, how does Big Guy do it? How does he just, walk into the bomb site and plant completely unchallenged? Just, does he mute everybody in their team? How does nobody hear him, and how is he never challenged?
He's just gifted. He has silent stuff. Just walks in.
He's just a permanent nook. You heard it here first. He basically is just nook the entire time. My friend, though, I got to get serious one time, though. For how... I should say it this way. What is it going to look like for you guys going into the Unified Collegiate Championship? Because you're going to be playing against the best collegiate teams. We're going to be going against Akron, Converse, NC State, Purdue... And you might not get away with the YOLO Big Guy plant. So are we going to see a deviation away from your strategy, or are you still going to go straight for the YOLO executes?
Probably the YOLO executes. Until we get punished for it and teams are good enough to punish us, we'll just, plant the bomb.
I love to hear it, my friend. The floor is yours. Anybody you want to give love to today, anybody you want to shout out, now's the opportunity to make sure that they're heard.
Huge shout out to the school. They've been nothing but the best to us. Shout out to Dylan, Mayo, the team, and all the fans.
Awesome, my friend. Trevor, always a pleasure chatting with you. We've talked to you a lot over the season. You earned your grand finals. You earned your victory today. Now please go back over to the WSU Tech server and celebrate your victory, my friend.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Cheers. Reese, what a game, what a grand finals, what a series, and honestly, I admire everything that WSU Tech has done this past semester. They came out of the woodworks, they came as a roster that nobody really knew, and then they just steamroll the competition. A dominant performance, consistently close to 7-1 victories. I mean, before postseason, they lost 4 rounds over 7 play days, and whatever A21 Mayo and Scrimsies did to create this super team, it is certainly something that everybody in the collegiate ecosystem should be fearful of.
And I think you should be probably expecting more of this same strategy. Some of the best players from the amateur scene, underagers being brought forward in the opportunity to study, to learn, to gain more knowledge, but also to improve their skills and display their prowess on the biggest collegiate stages that we have to offer. In today's battle between these two Kansas schools, it's ultimately the team in Wichita that does prevail, and that concludes our broadcast. But we won't be going away for too long. The next semester of NJCAA is just around the corner, and we really want you to participate as well. We want you to bring your school into our competition, so make sure you register with that on the horizon. But, Chief, that finishes us out for today. It was a pleasure. It was a quick one, and a new precedent has been set. We hope to see you in the next season of NJCAA as well in the Unified Collegiate Championship, where 4 JUCO schools will be representing this competition. With that being said, that's all from us tonight. Thank you for stopping by. I've been Sticky Up, my co-caster Chief, our producer Just Staying Alive, and our observer Griffin as well, from all of us saying so long here from the NJCAA.